Well, welcome back to Bible class. We're glad that you're here with us. And we have been studying together the book of Nahum. We're studying Nahum and Habakkuk this quarter. And we left off last week finishing up chapter 2, and we're ready now to begin with chapter 3. This chapter 3, if you wanted to give it a chapter title, you could call it Nineveh's Doom Deserved. And the 19 verses that are in this chapter talk about the idea of woe being pronounced unto Nineveh. And so we're going to cover the first 10 verses, and then we'll cover the rest of the book next week. And then we'll start the following week with Habakkuk. And if everything goes like it's supposed to, we'll be able to plug in that book, not this week, but not the next week, but the week after, and then be able to start the process of going through it together with our Bible classes. And so we begin with chapter 3 and verse 1, which says, "Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. Its victims never departs," or its victim never departs. Woe to the bloody city. This, this is in reference to all of the people that the city has killed. Nineveh was a very violent place. In fact, they were completely void of any morality. And she would break covenants to get her way, and she was full of lies and pillage. And pillage, as we know, is just robbery with open knowledge. Her prey never departs. This means that Nineveh never grows tired of plundering others. You might have seen people ask before that have won a lot of titles in a sport. Do you ever get tired of winning? Does it ever get boring at a certain point? And I think the question can quickly be answered. If it ever got boring, I think they'd stop coaching. They always want the next title. And the moment the game is over, you know what they're thinking about? The next season, the next title. They want to win another one. And so when you look at Nineveh, that was their mentality with murder and bloodshed and conquering. It was, we've conquered this place, now let's go conquer the next. And there was a problem with that. And it's woe to the bloody city. The noise of a whip, verse 2, and the noise of rattling wheels and of galloping horses, of clattering chariots. These are vivid descriptions of warfare. The noise of the whip, the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and the galloping of horses in these bounding chariots. War is coming. Verse 3 says, "Horsemen charge with bright sword and glittering spear. There is a multitude of slain, a great number of bodies, countless corpses. They stumble over the corpses." So what's the story now? The people who have been responsible for killing others are now being killed. We talked about this a lot so far in this class. Leading up to this moment, you get what's coming to you. And when you have a certain area of your life that is treated this way, don't be shocked if that's the very thing that ends up happening to you. The conquerors can be conquered. And that's exactly what's happening here. And we find in verse 4, it says, "Because of the multitude of harlotries of the seductive harlot, the mistress of sorceries, who sells nations through her harlotries and families through her sorceries." These harlotries were the treaties that she was breaking with those who she had deceived by pretending to be in love with them. And this is the reason in part for her destruction. I love to play certain games that have strategy involved in them. And one of the games that I play with a lot of my friends is fantasy football. Of course, I'm a big football guy. And I sometimes will call a friend in the league up and say, "Hey, if I do this, would you do that? Would you do that if I were to do this? I won't break my word." Now, what do you think would be the story if when that situation arises itself, say that it's the draft, and I say, "Hey, I won't draft this player, you give me your pick, and your player will be sitting there for you when you pick next." And what if I get that pick, and then I take the very player I promised I wouldn't select? What do you think is going to happen the next time I talk to my buddy about trying to sign one of those quote-unquote treaties? I remember what you did to me the last time. You told me that you weren't going to do this, and then you did it anyway. Why would I want to help you out? And this is what Nineveh was doing, but on a much larger and serious scale, because they were telling people, "Hey, let's go in on a treaty together. Let's help each other out." And when Nineveh was needed, they didn't show up. They didn't come to the defense and to the aid of the people that they'd signed these treaties with. And so, verse 5, "Behold, I am against you, says the Lord of hosts. I will lift your skirts over your face. I will show the nations your nakedness and the kingdoms your shame. I'm going to humiliate you like you have humiliated your treaties that you've broken with the other nations and the people, your prey. I will cast abominable filth upon you, make you vile, and I'm going to make you a spectacle." Everyone's going to see you. Nobody's going to be exempt from this. Everyone will see you. They will know what has happened, and they're going to point and laugh at you. And it's going to come to pass that people will look upon you. They'll flee from you and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? Where shall I seek comforters for you? She's being reviled and ridiculed. And these other nations are going to shout for joy that she is so destroyed in such brutality. Who's going to come and comfort Nineveh? Nobody. Verse 8 says, are you better than Nahum that was situated by the river, that had the waters around her, whose rampart was the sea, whose wall was the sea? Are you better than Nahum? That was a city of Thebes. This Egyptian city was destroyed in 663 BC, and the Assyrians gloated over the destruction of this city. Are you better than them? Ethiopia and Egypt, they were her strength, and it was boundless. Put and Lubim were your helpers. Her southern border, Ethiopia, and Egypt, her northern border, were great helps to her. Put was her eastern border, I should say, and Lubim was the western, it was western Libya, I should say. It was her west border. And this city had powerful borders, but yet the Assyrians destroyed Nahum. Despite what they had, they came in and destroyed them very easily and very quickly. Verse 10 says, yet with all that she had, she was carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children were also dashed to pieces at the head of every street. They cast lots for her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains. Despite all that she had going for her, she lost. She went into captivity. Are you better than them? You see, the funny thing about Nineveh was they had nobody to come to their defense. They'd broken all these treaties with everybody. Who's going to come to the defense of Nineveh when they sit there and say, we asked you to sign a treaty with us, you did, and then you didn't help us. Why would we help you? And Nineveh is being informed by God, your actions have consequences, and the consequences of your actions is that you are going to be destroyed just like you destroyed all these other places. So get ready. And you're not better than Nahum. You're not better than these other places that have been destroyed by you. You can fall too. And so they would. That concludes our verses to study for this week. But again, I want to drive this point home as we study this together. Our actions, what you and I do in this life, have a consequence in the next. And you might not think that right now because maybe you feel like you've gotten away with a lot of stuff. The problem is the bill comes due. You will have problems. You will have situations where people come after you and they're going to tell you actions have consequences. God's no different. He looks at what you and I do and he judges us for what we've done. Righteous judgment, mind you. And then the punishment that we deserve comes upon us. It doesn't have to be that way. Had Nineveh stayed faithful to God after the book of Jonah, would they be destroyed? No. If you and I stay faithful to God after we become Christians, will we be destroyed? No. But the sad truth and the sad fact is many people, Matthew tells us, are going to go the way of destruction instead of the way of life. Don't be one of those people. Lord willing, next week we'll pick up with verse 11 through 19 and close this book out together. But I hope you've been enjoying this study of Nahum. It's a book that I haven't studied a whole lot of in my lifetime other than when I went through the Memphis School of Preaching, and I thought it'd be good to study through it again. Good opportunity to look at this book and see what messages it carries over even in 2020. But class is now concluded for today, and Lord willing, we'll see you again next week.